Hey y'all, it's Dave from Flash and Dance DJ and Production Services. How you doing? Top of the morning to you. You know, my coffee cup, unfortunately it is Ocean Spray and my wife no longer works there. She got this when she worked there and she gave it to me. This is an event I used to do. Hopefully it comes back this year. It's branded with my company name, and we're actually going to peel this off because, as you can see behind me, we've got different kinds of printers. We've got Cricut makers. We've got a press for shirts and stuff like that. We've got a mini one in case my wife ever does a vendor fair and she wants to take that. As you can see, she's got a bunch of stuff over in the office because she's got a new venture she's doing, which I will post below. It's called Chain and Charm, and it's for permanent jewelry. So hope your coffee is as good as mine. So anyway, let's talk about this gig log. And why I'm shooting it now. So one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is shoot video content anywhere and everywhere you can. However, to me, if you're in a parking lot and you're shooting a video for whatever it might be, whether it's just for yourself or whatever, try, especially if you're doing it part of a company thing like this is for me for Flash and Dance, try not to capture businesses' logos unless it's a place you're working. Okay, meaning that, like, I worked for this particular gig log, I worked at a place called Pub in the Park. That's different. They should be branded inside your video because it's a venue you're at. However, if you're at a gas station, if you're at a store where you need to buy tools or something like that, try to avoid at all costs putting their logos in your videos. I'm not saying not to. The reason why I'm saying is because I have heard of instances where said companies have gone after, somebody shooting content for they dislike whatever the person's doing and they don't want their brand associated with that. So for me, I will always try to avoid that. So the first time this was shot, the logo in the parking lot I was in, was there. So I decided that this is the fourth time I'm shooting this, just so you know. I'm not a big fan of reshooting things. However, when I saw the logo in it, I wasn't too happy. I shot it last night at my shop. I wasn't too happy with the way it turned out. I was just rambling too much, like I am a little bit right now, but I'm just filling you in. And then I shot one a little while ago, and I didn't like my thought process on it. So I apologize. So anyway, let's talk about last week. So last weekend was very, very busy for me. Sorry, I'm just stretching because I'm trying to keep some notes and things on the screen. You know how it is when you do these things. So with that being said, it was for a group of bands that I call a conglomerate. We all know a conglomerate is they take over a certain set of market things, but that's not what this band is. It's because it's a collective. Let's put it that way. It's a collective of bands where it's like you have a parent company and then you have bands underneath them. So with that being said, it's the Got Ballz is the umbrella. That's the top of this. Then you've got multiple bands underneath. You've got Limp Balls, which is Limp Bizkit. You've got Balls on Parade, which is Rage Against the Machine. You've got Corn Balls, which is Korn. You've got More Balls Than Balls, which is Rob Zombie and White Zombie. You've got Beastie Balls, which is Beastie Boys. You've got House of Balls, which is House of Pain. You've got Cypress Balls, which is Cypress Hill. So in the last year and a half that I've seen since this big giant umbrella of bands is More Balls Than Balls, House of Balls, and Cypress Balls have just come out. They've been released in the last year or two. So, they're each in their own right. They're really, really awesome. They have different members in each one. Obviously, as their name says, is what they do. So, like, Limp Balls is Limp Bizkit, and they play all Limp Bizkit. Like, I'm not sure if they're doing any modern Limp Bizkit, but they are definitely, like, for me, up to, like, they're doing from, like, the 90s version of Limp Bizkit all the way up to, I'd say, right before they went on hiatus. I believe it's that whole time frame. They're really, really good at what they do. So the way that the rundown was for the day was, it was Beastie Boys opened up. Then it was then they took a 15-minute break to change outfits and stuff like that. And then it was the House of Pain, Cypress Hill set, and they added some songs from Onyx. Which was Slam. They added a couple of songs from Public Enemy. So it was kind of cool. It was a little bit different. And then they played some, normally I'm playing break music, but they wanted a specific, because it was actually timed out, I guess. So they played the break music from when we did the Cypress Hill stuff, a House of Pain stuff, until they went into the Limp Bizkit stuff, which was perfectly fine. So they did all the Limp Bizkit stuff, and then when they finished the set off, they were talking about how, I believe it was the start of the band was the Rage Against the Machine tribute, and it just expanded from there. So they ended up doing Balls on Parade, or Bulls on Parade, that the very famous song by Rage Against the Machine, which a lot of people love it. Unfortunately, we do have to edit out the ending of the song a lot of times. As much as we want to play it for certain reasons, you can't in certain instances. Anyway, I digress. So earlier in the day, like I said, I went to my nephew's graduation. I was I'm still emotional to a point. Like this morning, he left. He went for a job interview. So, it's just one of those things. You gotta make that time to put family first. Like next Saturday, I've taken a day off because it's actually my wife's birthday. So I'm gonna do the Lakeville Country Club for her. So that way she can have the day off, she can hang out with her family and friends and enjoy the day. So anyway, I went to my nephew's graduation, which started at 11 o'clock. 11:30 it kicked off or so. It might have been a little bit after 11. Anyway, that was an hour and 50 minutes in the sun, so I was already drained. And so Wednesday, we're going to talk about hydration, and we're going to talk about lighting, because I learned a couple things at this particular show. So I've always liked the 4 bars because of how simple they are. They go up very easily. If you're doing actual DMX programming, they're very easy to program once you have the profile all set up. And I realized, while they're good, they don't have a wide beam angle. They actually have a very narrow beam angle. So these are like, if you would have put like 4 of them on a truss, you could almost do like the old school, and it not like a par 56 or a par 64 or something like that. You could do more of a pin spot effect, which is cool. It works. It really does work well. So, because I have Berkley's 250th, I've been trying to come up in my mind. I don't have the best lighting in the world. You take what you have and you use what you have. I had to come up with a solution for that on the 28th, and I did come up with a solution. We'll talk about that on Wednesday for Tech Tips. But here's the thing. So I used them. It did wash the sage. You're gonna see it in the 9-minute video I have of. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You won't. You'll see it in a separate video. I have a 9-minute and a 10-minute clip. The 9-minute is the full time lapse of the setup, and then what I'm gonna do is take the tail end of the 10-minute, put that at the end of it, and that will be the teardown that I do. So you're gonna see the setup and the teardown, and then in a separate video is going to be about the I'm gonna have a little intro, but it's going to be the show itself. So the whole show will be there. The reason why I want to put it up there and then send it to the band, so they can use it for their own use if they want to. So with that being said, let's get into that, and you guys can watch it, and we'll talk about it on the backside. everybody enjoyed that. You know, I want to apologize about the fan. It's a little warm here in Southern Mass. You know, I went back and I listened to the third one that I had shot of this. I listened to the air conditioner. I know you guys are probably getting annoyed with the fan, but I've got to stay cool somehow, and I don't want a lot of noise in the background. The air conditioner's too much. Maybe the fan's too much. When I go back to edit this, I'll find out, and then I'll make a decision, figure out exactly how I got to do this going forward. So I apologize if there's any noise. So with that being said, as you saw, you know, there was a lot that went into this, but I will say, you know, I get a lot of enjoyment watching these bands and watching these crowds. You know, I saw somebody I haven't seen in probably 6 to 8 months who was there. You know, I networked with the owner before and after the show, and after the show, he asked me for some cards. You know, he asked me for some pricing, gave him some prices, you know, so hopefully it pans out. You know, I have venues that do end up getting a hold of me, and then I have other ones that don't. They just ask for cards just because, and that's fine. I have no problem wasting cards, handing them out, because all of a sudden they may not use me, say, for a year, and then all of a sudden, hey, Dave, this is so-and-so from whatever the venue is, you know, hey, you know, the band sound, you know, production company fell through, you know, are you available on such and such date, and what's going to be the cost for it? You know, and we go from there. So if it happens, great. If not, no big deal. So overall, the show was great. I made a decision, and I'm gonna throw this in too as a tech tip on Wednesday. So I had made some looms from existing cables I had, and I've had some bad cables that are in there. Why, I don't know. You know, as far as I know, they've popped up on my tester as known good cables, but they're not passing audio. So they're just going to go straight in the trash. I'm not even going to try and troubleshoot them. I'm not even going to try and put new ends on them. I know what they're labeled as in the old drum snakes. I bought new cables. That's the thing that I made the decision on. If I have bad stuff, I'm going to start replacing it. And now I have so much cabling that I think it's time that I need to start getting actual cable trunks, just because I have that much. You know, I need to start getting some reels. I need to order some more Cat 6. You know, it's that kind of stuff. But I have so much XLR in the 30, 50, 100-foot range, and I have 5, 10s, 25s, and 30s, like I said, in one of my other bins. So it's just, I have so much cabling now for a full production that I don't have to worry about running out. I used to worry about running out all the time. Now I don't have that worry. So that's one thing we'll talk about in an upcoming Tech Tip Wednesday. So with that being said, I know I'm rambling on and on. So we'll end this here, and then we'll pick things up on Wednesday with hydration, lighting, and you know, other ideas that come up. You know, it'll be a full half hour of talking about hydration wise, and you know, about an event I just did this past weekend. So to give you my upcoming schedule, Friday night I am at the Jetty. Then Saturday I have the day off. I am doing the Lakeville Country Club, but that's so my wife doesn't have to do it because it's her birthday. She doesn't need to work on her birthday. Me, on the other hand, you know, I just like to work, so I will work her birthday at her birthday celebration with family and friends. Then Sunday is the Strawberry Festival in Assonet, which is the Tuesday Club of Assonet. That Sunday I will be, which is the 28th, I will be I have the Berkley 250th that day, which they've changed the schedule a little bit, which is fine. I've got a couple of acoustic acts, and then I have a local large band, and then the following on Tuesday, which I'll have a gig log from that, is I'm going to Manchester by the Sea with the Northern Fried Guys. That's an annual trip that I do every year with them. That's about 2 hours north of here. And then on Friday and Saturday, I have the Freetown 4th of July. You know, I have the fireworks display, and then the parade the next morning, and then trip tonight on the night of the 4th. So anyway, with that being said, I am going to say, please like, comment, and subscribe. I want to say a big shout out. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, commented, send me thoughts, well wishes, the whole nine yards. Even said in person, I've had one or two people walk up, they're not even friends, and go, hey, I found you on YouTube, and you talked about the show, and I went searching for it and I found it and I bought tickets and here I am, and I shake their hand and I say thank you so much for following and coming out, and not necessarily you're coming out for because I said something about it, but here you are supporting an act that I believe in, and I try to stay humble with all of that, because this afternoon I could leave to go to my part-time job and I'm gone. I don't like to talk about that stuff, but that's just part of life. You don't know what the next 5 minutes has in store for you. So with that, thank you very much for all of that. And don't forget, treat others the way you want to be treated, and learn one thing every day. And I'll see you on Wednesday for Tech Tip Wednesday with hydration, lighting, and thoughts on the 4 bar.